CFTO TV Channel 9 in Toronto.
In tonight's news, singled out but standing fast. Unity Commissioner says no to calls for her resignation. A special report on alternative energy.
The era of the mega project is probably over.
Powering up private utilities.
Here, Alexander.
And better late than never, Ottawa recognizes veterans of the Korean War.
CTV News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Good evening. Parliament's beleaguered Constitutional Committee now faces a full-scale mutiny that threatens to kill it. The committee's co-chair, Dorothy Dobie, said today she will not bow to opposition demands and resign. But Liberal leader Jean Chrétien says his members will pull out of the committee if she remains. And tonight, an opposition party spokesman told CTV News Chrétien has called Constitutional Affairs Minister Joe Clark and told him officially of the Liberals' plans. The NDP also wants Dobie out, but so far has not threatened to leave the committee. Dobie told the Canadian Press today that she is sticking with the committee. She said, "This is just too important, and I think it is best to hang in there." Dobie also says she hopes the stand taken by the Liberals is just posturing. She calls demands for her resignation nonsense and says she can't understand why there would be this kind of attack. The committee has been plagued with organizational problems and internal squabbles over staff and budgets. Last week, it returned to Ottawa to regroup after a meeting in Manitoba was canceled when no one showed up. Parliament does not sit this week, and senior federal officials are now working on a plan to replace the committee with a series of regional conferences if the opposition pulls out. Many admired him, many disliked him, but none was indifferent to him. Those words were spoken today at the funeral of media tycoon Robert Maxwell, who went from rags to riches to a mysterious death in the Atlantic Ocean. Today, investigators ordered the crew of Maxwell's yacht not to leave the Canary Islands area where his body was found earlier this week. This renewed speculation that death might not have been of natural causes. In Jerusalem, President Chaim Herzog of Israel was among those who eulogized Maxwell at the funeral. Martin Himmel reports.
Draped in a Jewish prayer shawl, Robert Maxwell was given a state funeral usually reserved for Israel's leaders. His wife, children, and Israel's ministers paid their final respects.
Dear Dad, soldier, publisher, and patriot, father of 9 children, may you rest peacefully here.
We in Israel have been deeply moved by his feeling for this land and our cause, for economic independence, for the absorption of the Russian immigration, for the security of our country, and for the achievement of peace.
Maxwell's last wish was to be buried on the Mount of Olives, adjacent to the holiest site in Judaism. It's an expression of his strong ties to this country, ties that became the topic of fierce debate in the last days of his life. The British media magnate invested $300 million into Israeli publishing, printing, and pharmaceutical companies. But the investment was overshadowed when American author Seymour Hersh alleged Maxwell used his multi-billion-dollar empire to assist the Israeli Secret Service Mossad and to help launder payments for arms shipments to Iran during the Iraq-Iran war. Maxwell sued Hersh for libel. Maxwell's aides vehemently deny the charges.
Stupid anti-Semitic rubbish. He said to me, this is bullshit and this is nonsense, and he was a fighter.
Maxwell was indeed a fighter, a World War II hero who carried his combative style into the business world. His widow, Betty Maxwell, said her husband had no shortage of enemies. She claims many people threatened him. Her allegations sparked speculation of foul play concerning Maxwell's bizarre death. Maxwell channeled his fighting spirit to backing Israel. Many believe it's the result of his parents and 4 brothers and sisters being murdered in the Holocaust. During the peak of the Palestinian uprising, he became one of Israel's most powerful spokesmen.
Israel and this government and the Jewish people deserve to be given a chance by the media.
The exact nature of Maxwell's ties with Israel may never be known. Whatever that relationship may have been, the Israelis feel they have lost a valuable and influential friend. Martin Himmel, CTV News, Jerusalem.
Now an intifada with olive branches. This phrase came today from the leader of the Palestinian peace negotiators, Faisal al-Husseini. The Palestinian negotiators returned home from the peace conference in Madrid to a jubilant welcome on the West Bank. Husseini was carried on the shoulders of his supporters. His reference to olive branches was taken as an offer to Israel to convert the Palestinian intifada from a stone-throwing uprising to a vehicle for peaceful talks. The Palestinians see their participation at the Madrid talks as an important acknowledgement of their political legitimacy. President F.W. de Klerk arrived for the first visit to Israel by a South African leader in 16 years.
As part of the return of South Africa to the international community, to our rightful place from which we have been excluded for so long.
Foreign Minister Piet Botha said relations between South Africa and Israel can now be normalized. The first contingent of a massive United Nations peacekeeping force arrived in Cambodia today. The UN's mission is to help Cambodia recover from a devastating civil war that killed more than 1 million people. The advance guard was made up of 37 Australian troopers who arrived wearing the blue beret of the United Nations. Their first task will be to set up communication lines between the headquarters of rival factions. The Australians also will be paving the way for thousands of other UN personnel who are taking part in the peace mission. The UN's role in Cambodia was outlined in a peace treaty ending a 13-year-old civil war. The pact was signed last month by Cambodia's warring factions. Under the treaty, the UN peacekeeping mission will involve 12,000 people and cost more than $2 billion. It will remain in Cambodia for about 2 years. The UN will share power with a 12-member council formed by the rival factions. Cambodia's former leader, Prince Norodom Sihanouk, will head the council until democratic elections are held. CTV's Jim Munson is